Hello, I'm Leaf.
And I'm Tarek.
And this is Popcorn and Protagonists. Welcome to the first episode.
There you go. Coming to you live from Vancouver Island, British Columbia, Canada.
Loving it. So yeah, basically this is going to be a show where we talk about popular culture, we talk about film, we talk about filmmaking. One of the things that we want to do on this show is demystify the film process and educate people on how films are made, but also, share what we're excited about as far as filmmaking and movies go. So one of the things I thought we could start with is the current film news. And one of the things that's in the headlines these days is the orange one, aka Donald Trump, has started proposing that he is going to implement 100% tariffs on films made outside of the United States.
Yeah, I was reading about that as well.
Yeah, that's a really bad thing for the Canadian film industry, especially because I know when the news came out, my film industry thread on Messenger exploded. Everyone was flipping out, wondering about if they're going to have a job or if it's just going to basically kill the film industry in Canada. Yep. A lot of people think that I've talked to are actually rather optimistic about it, and they think that it's actually going to end up not happening, or at least not as extreme as 100%. There's just a lot of money and a lot of players in the film industry. This is one of the reasons why Donald Trump doesn't like Hollywood, because they're more wealthy and more powerful than he is. He really hates the Hollywood elites for that reason. So, or
anyone who has that over him, really, from what we've seen about his psychology, right? Yeah, and I think that from the stuff that I read about it was that is a gross overstep of his power of his office, and that it's actually going to be repealed, from what I've been hearing.
I hope so. I mean, he's all about sort of concentrating all of the power to the executive branch and acting like a king. And this is not a politics show. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
Totally.
But yeah, I mean,
this particular initiative directly affects the film industry.
Yes.
Therefore, hence the conversation.
Obviously. And I mean, there's a lot of people that we know and work with, because Tarek and I both work in the film industry, and we are also independent filmmakers, and we also have our own independent production company called Cadborosaurus Films,
Correct.
Which is what we were producing this show on under that moniker or production company.
So we do know a little bit about what we're talking about. We have, we've both played in the industry for years, for sure. So that's one of the things that we kind of want to do with this podcast is bring both the fan perspective, but also the industry perspective from people who have been working on film crews for years. Yeah,
and I think one of the interesting things that we're going to be doing with further episodes is we're going to have some people in from the film industry. We're going to have some independent filmmakers, screenwriters, DOPs, grips. We want to educate people about how films are made. Paul Newman once said that filmmaking is the ultimate convergence of the arts.
I would 100% agree with that. It's such a collaborative project from so many creative-minded peoples and different departments to actually execute an artistic vision. I would say it would be pretty hard to argue that point. Yeah.
And I mean, don't remind some people that it's collaborative, because, some people in film think that it's all top down, but you never get the job done. Everyone counts. The PAs, the grips, the gaffer, everyone is important. And
100%.
yeah, for sure. So, no final decisions have been made from the White House, but Hollywood North obviously says it's going to be devastating. Canada's film industry could face major challenges after U.S. Donald Trump announced plans to impose a 100% tariff, like I was saying, on all foreign-made movies. Now, some producers say the plan completely misunderstands Canada's crucial role in the Hollywood system.
100%, especially when you look at how the environmental impact is affecting California's ability to continue with the industry, right? The wildfires, just this year alone, have made such a significant impact to people who are working there and are able to live there. Absolutely. And that's a critical piece of the puzzle that obviously, the incentive of this idea doesn't seem to take into account.
Well, I mean, I'm sure you've heard Hollywood's dying. They don't make a lot of movies in LA anymore.
Yeah.
Very, very few, in fact. They're all going to Atlanta, the UK, Australia, Canada.
Yeah, places where production costs are lower.
Yeah,
and they can kind of bank on that exchange rate to bolster the production cost as well.
Yeah, and also I've heard that California is insanely overregulated. Where you would have to go to get one permit or one sort of waiver for something, you have to go through 3 people instead of 1 person. You got to get like, you know, I've heard horror stories about people just trying to build a solar powered shed and it takes like 3 years.
Jesus. You know, and even though it's like on your property.
It's on your property, but you have to get like 3 inspectors and 5 forms. And it's
such another level of unnecessary gatekeeping that obviously that would impact production's ability to even move forward or be effective in any way. Yeah.
And that's why a lot of productions have moved to Atlanta. I mean, I think even the new season of Peacemaker, season 2, they filmed it in Vancouver the first season and they moved to Atlanta.
Wow.
Yeah, because I think almost all of the DC and Marvel stuff is being filmed there now. There in the UK.
I wonder if that's a shift in story geography, which kind of dictated that. Because, you know, when they did the first Made season here on Vancouver Island, right? We were both on that. We both worked on that show. Yeah. It was crazy. And then I heard that the second season was set in New York, I believe. And that was because of the story dictated the change in geography. I wonder if that's the same thing for the Peacemaker, or if maybe it's just all of these other factors that drove that decision.
I think it's the other factors, because as far as I can see, they've tried as best they can to match it to the first season.
Gotcha. Yeah.
With the locations and the buildings.
So they don't want the audience to notice that they had to relocate.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But anyways, just to finish off this whole Donald Trump nonsense, you know, I think that it's kind of ridiculous because, I mean, like almost everything, the orange one doesn't really understand how it's a common practice to film major motion pictures in countries all over the world.
Yeah.
Films like the Mission Impossible series, which I'm actually going to review The Final Reckoning today. I just saw it recently, the last Mission Impossible movie. I don't believe them.
Me neither. But that is a great example of production value that is driven from foreign locations.
Going to all these beautiful places in the world.
Yeah, you know? Amazing old architecture in European cities and stuff, and in the deserts of like in the Middle
Sahara.
East. Yeah.
Yeah, well, Mission Impossible series, it's a perfect example of films that heavily rely on filming in unique and beautiful locations all across the globe. You know,
100%.
As Tom Cruise, aka Ethan Hunt, and his team traverse the globe to stop the latest existential threat. We'll get into that more later. But, you know, experts are scratching their heads over how such attacks could work, given how intertwined the global film industry is.
No doubt.
You know, in Truth Social on Sunday night, he said he was going to direct the Department of Commerce and U.S. Trade Representative to immediately begin the process of imposing the tariff, but he hasn't signed an executive order yet. So the White House said that no final decisions have been made. I just hope they drop this. I really, really hope they just fucking drop it.
Yeah, you would think that would make the most logical sense. And even if they get to that point of signing the executive order, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to happen, because there has been a lot of pushback from some very intelligent and integral like people in the United States, like judges and stuff, that have already said about some of his previous executive orders of like, yeah, no, that's not how it works. You are grossly overstepping your authority, and we're going to put an end to that. So let's hope that that's kind of the end of this story, of where this story ends up as well.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's hard to know how a tariff like the one he's proposing would be imposed and to which movies it would apply to. I mean, it's not like they're creating a good. How do you put a tariff on it? It's like, this is like multiple countries and different places working together, creating content. And I don't know. Hopefully it turns out well, and hopefully we can still be working in the film industry in a couple of years.
Yeah, no kidding.
But, moving on, I wanted to kind of cover some of the, we're covering current movie news, and I thought we could go over some of the blockbusters coming up this summer, because, you know, that's when all the superhero movies come out.
Yep.
And one of the things that, one of the biggest movies, most anticipated movies that are coming out this summer, I think in about a month and a half-ish, or a little less, is the Superman movie. Starring David Cornsweet as Superman, Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane, and Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor. And I think Nathan Fillion he's going to be the Green Lantern, Guy Gardner.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Not Hal Jordan.
No, it's going to be Guy Gardner.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Also interesting that they're not using Henry Cavill as Superman. I thought that he was the cast.
No,
because I love me some Henry Cavill. That guy's awesome.
Don't get me
in everything.
Me started. He's perfect. I think he's the best Superman ever. Period.
100%.
But I think what happened was James Gunn wanted to go with a different look. He wanted to kind of reset everything.
Yeah.
He wanted a younger Superman, not so middle-aged kind of looking, because Henry Cavill kind of looks like, I don't know, 30s, 40s, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so. Anyways, yeah, they're rebooting the DCU, and this movie's kind of make or break it. In my opinion, and I've talked to Tarek about this at nauseum. I just think James Gunn's going to kick Marvel's ass because he really values story and quality screenwriting over Marvel.
Yeah, it does seem like that's how it's going to unfold, especially when, and we're going to, Leif and I were both comic book kids growing up, so we're going to do a full episode on the Marvel, MCU and the good points of it and how it's declined in quality in the slide. But I think that you're right, like to your point about James Gunn potentially stealing a lot of the audience away from Marvel with these DC films coming out. That level of creative vision that he stands to with his production value, as well as the fact that they've diluted the interest in their audience by putting out just way too much in such a short, period of years. I think you're right. I think that we're gonna see a big shift. I think.
Well, Marvel figured that out. They were kind of fire hosing us with content for a while. It was just too much, and then they only put like 2 movies out last year or something like that. And then, I think they're realizing that they need to do a shift because the quality definitely has been going down. It's been a series of diminishing returns as far as Marvel content goes. They're famous. I've talked to you about this before, but for rushing visual effects, for starting productions, with not an unfinished script. And writing the script on the fly is one thing when you're a brilliant screenwriter like Joss Whedon, but it's a whole other thing when you got too many cooks in the kitchen and they're just constantly changing things, and it really shows on the screen.
Yeah. And the thing is, too, is that I would totally agree with you at that point. And you have to, you have to give your fan base a certain amount of credit.
Yeah.
And when you're changing storyline points and putting things together in a last minute mishmash where it doesn't even make sense at that point, that's when you start to lose people, because people who've been fans of these storylines for years and know all the details and know when you change a character or you swap out whatever it might happen to be for something else, people pick up on that. And if you are a real fan of the storyline, I mean, it obviously depends on the execution, because if it's done well enough, people will get on board.
Yeah.
But if it's crap, then as a fan of that franchise, it can be somewhat upsetting. I guess you kind of take a little bit of exception to that, because it seems like that's wherein we're seeing the artistic value drop away for the sake of profitability.
Well, and that's like the intersection of commerce and art that we were talking about before.
Exactly.
And it's unfortunate, but these movies have to make money. But I mean, it's this tight wire walk where you create something really amazing that still is successful and financially viable.
Right.
That's a hard line to walk. I think James Gunn I trust, honestly. I think the guy's a genius. The Guardians movies are amazing.
They are a lot of fun. Yeah.
His writing is incredible. He's written a lot of really great movies too in the past, even before he was directing films. He wrote, was it Zack Snyder's Day of the Dead?
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah. Was it Day of the Dead? I think it was the one with the mall, when they're all trapped in the mall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, there's been a bunch. The last one I watched was the one with the safecracker, not the one where they go to Vegas, but it was really cool.
It was really cool. That was another Zack Snyder movie. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was a great. I'm not even a huge zombie genre movie fan, but that movie was a lot of fun to watch for sure.
I really like those films. He actually did a lot of the camera opping on that.
Cool.
He was just grabbing the camera. He was pulling a Ridley Scott, just like, I'm going to do it.
Nice.
Yeah. I think that's kind of awesome.
Yeah.
So, apparently, Supergirl is going to make a cameo in the Superman film.
Okay.
And she's played by Millie Alcock. And they actually just finished filming the Supergirl movie. And it's called Woman of Tomorrow. They just finished it in the UK.
Nice.
And apparently it's all set in space.
Okay.
Which is, I think, kind of awesome.
So before she arrives on Earth.
Interesting. And Jason Momoa is going to be showing up as Lobo, which is like, I'm so stoked about this. He is the perfect actor to play Lobo. I mean, the guy rides a motorbike all the time, for fuck's sake, right?
Yeah, and that was actually one of my favorite comic book storylines. There was a number of them, obviously, like X-Men and, Alpha Flight, but Lobo was right up there. So
Alpha Flight, I haven't thought about that in years, man.
Dude, that would be also an amazing, if they ever made a live action that did it justice.
Yeah.
something a little bit more gritty, maybe in the vein of like Thunderbolts, I think it could be fantastic.
And like set and based in Canada, which is starting to become a thing where Americans actually tell stories set in Canada rather than changing them to the United States, because, you know, Americans seem, I don't know, so nationalistic. They don't like anything if it's not set in the United States. But there was that Under the Bridge series that depicted the Rena Verk murder. Yeah. And, you know, in the past, they would have just changed it to an American city. Yeah. But they didn't. It was set in Victoria.
I wonder if maybe because it's a historical story, though, that they have to stay true to the facts of it.
Yeah, that's true. But
because that is something that's always really bothered me about the film industry too, especially here, you know, in British Columbia. As a Canadian who works in the industry, we see that all the time, like you said, where they'll come here and they'll film, but you know, they present it as Montana or whatever.
Yeah, you know, it's it'll be interesting to see how this Supergirl movie turns out. I'm pretty stoked about it. I hope that it's successful, because apparently, you know, David Zaslav, the CEO of Marvel, is saying basically, if these movies aren't successful, like these first couple movies, they're just going to drop it all like a hot potato and just put out animated DC stuff or something. Like they're not even going to bother with the live action stuff anymore. Wow. Because he's very shrewd. He doesn't want to waste money. This is the guy who canceled all the CW superhero shows because they were just burning up money, right? They were millions of dollars per episode, right? Yeah. And they were doing, Flash was doing like 20 episodes, 22 episodes per season, times like 2-3 million per episode,
which is old school, because like that would not be uncommon for previous series or sitcoms from years ago. But yeah, nowadays, I mean, most of them are like 8 to 12 episodes, maybe some of them are only 6 now. It's crazy.
With The Last of Us, I think it was only 7 episodes the second season. We just finished it, and it was a pretty tight narrative. Back in the old days, they would have had a ton of filler episodes, but they don't really do that anymore. So I'm really looking forward to this movie. Apparently it's going to be brighter, more hopeful take without an origin story. Okay. Thank Christ. I'm so tired of origin stories. We all know how Spider-Man became Spider-Man now. We all know how Batman became Batman now. Right. So yeah, it should be interesting. The Supergirl movie might be a little more dark because apparently she's like mourning the loss of her family on Krypton and trying to find a way to move on from that. So it's going to have a little more pathos than the Superman film, which I think is kind of interesting, honestly, exploring that. Yeah. Because that's like trauma and loss. Your whole planet blew up, basically, right? Yeah, and
it makes perfect sense that would affect anyone, obviously. And it's nice when they're a little bit more true to life these days than just being like, oh yeah, everything's rainbows and sunshine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. People just move on from something that would be like genuinely traumatizing. Yeah. And so, okay, we already went over that. Sorry, give me a second here.
That's actually something that I really appreciate about the shift in just the general filmmaking that I've noticed in, I guess, like maybe the last decade or so. I mean, even the decade before that, you started to see glimpses of storylines that were becoming more true to like the everyday human experience, which I think makes for a much more, you know, engaging, interesting story, personally.
Well, that was why the Thunderbolts was such a great movie, because these are all flawed characters that we can all relate to, that are haunted by mistakes they've made, haunted by trauma. Yeah. They're imperfect. Yeah. They're not superhuman or godlike.
It's way more true to life. Yeah. And I think that a lot of us who are fans of these storylines and those kind of like, you know, superhero characters are in agreement with the fact that the ones that have come along in the recent years that are more gritty and more dark are way more fun. Like The Boys is obviously a perfect example of that. One of the best superhero series ever created.
And I do like gritty and dark because I love Snyder's take on Superman. And Batman. I thought Batman was awesome. I love Finn. I remember when I took him to see that, my son, he was a lot younger. He says, I like angry Batman. I like angry, pissed off Batman. Because he was just like kicking ass and blowing shit up. And like, he's popping out the machine guns on the Batmobile. And like, and a lot of people were like, Batman doesn't kill. Batman doesn't use guns. Not true. Batman does do that when he gets old and jaded. Yeah, there's plenty of stories when he does that
in the comic book storylines. Yes, they've just never really crossed that line in the films.
In the films as much, and Snyder started to sort of creep into that territory, right?
Yes, they actually kind of started dipping into that in
the jaded old Batman.
In the Titans series that they did a number of years ago, which was great because it is. Oh man, I can't. It's crazy that I'm blanking on the actor's name, but it's an older version of Batman, and Robin, the guy who plays Dick Grayson as his protege, starts to become unhinged, and when Jason Todd shows up, and like Dick Grayson walks away and becomes Nightwing, right? And he's just a badass, jaded ass kicker, and it's great. And then Jason Todd shows up as the new Robin, and then at some point along the storyline, something really traumatic happens to him, and he walks away and becomes Red Hood, and then just starts killing motherfuckers.
I've been wanting to do a Red Hood movie forever.
Yeah,
I love that storyline. That's so tragic. Well, they did an animated feature, which was pretty awesome.
Yep.
But I would love to see a live action film of that story.
Yeah. Well, and the interesting argument that character personifies is like, well, if you're just willing to cross that line of morality, I'm going to kill this guy, the problem's solved now forever. Now we don't have to try and put him back in jail or worry about the next person he's going to victimize. And there's something to be said for that argument, for sure.
It's brutal, but you can kind of see his logic.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But so like I said, Tark and I grew up reading comic books. We never could imagine them being realized into the amazing films that Hollywood can produce now. But we've seen over the last few years, like I was saying, things have been getting kind of slowed down as far as Marvel's quality, but hopefully they can turn it around, because I've always been a big Marvel and DC fan. I wrote both those comic books when I was growing up.
Yeah, there's a lot of great characters in both those universes, for sure.
And Spider-Man, I love Spider-Man. I love Batman. I love Daredevil. I read a lot of these titles when I was growing up, and it still blows my mind, because I understood enough about filmmaking to know that they could never really adapt comic books properly. And when they did, they were kind of goofy back in the old days, right?
Yes. Absolutely. Like the Adam West Superman days and stuff, where everything's like super. Yeah.
Or Adam West Batman days. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Batman days. That's what I meant. That's right.
And then the Superman films. I remember Superman Quest for Peace, loving it as a kid, and then seeing it, and it's like a bad B-rate joke of a film. It's so bad. It's just, I can't even. Yeah, it's just terrible. So we're in a real golden age of filmmaking, not just for, all of these superhero properties. I mean, filmmaking's been democratized. It's, people can make movies now that are very high quality, and you don't even need to have a lot of money to do it.
True.
Well, money always helps. I know we could use more money on some of our projects.
100%.
But back in the old days, it cost 10 or 20 grand for a can of film every 20 minutes.
Right.
And that adds up, right?
Yeah.
So now that it's ones and zeros, it's really changed the game. But, I was saying to you earlier, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier already, but how Marvel does this thing where they hire the auteur directors, and they do that to almost kind of make it feel like the film has more legitimacy. But I've listened to a lot of interviews with these directors saying that they get in there and they don't have a lot of creative control. They're just sort of like being swept along into the sort of Marvel machine of how they make movies.
Right. So they're banking on that person's name, credibility to bring audience members in, but then that person is not allowed to actually execute their artistic vision for however they think the film should be.
Minimally.
They're very much handcuffed with what they're allowed to actually do with said film.
To a degree, but not really. And I've heard a lot of directors complain about this. So I hope Marvel turns the page on that, because that's how you get a unique vision. The director's so important, right? And it's almost like the McDonald's of superhero movies, right?
Right.
I had that analogy earlier about like it's like a chef trying to make a gourmet meal at a McDonald's, right? So,
and it's unfortunate that Thunderbolts is getting such bad reviews from like critics and like its Rotten Tomatoes scores and stuff like that.
Is it? I didn't know that.
Yeah, which is a bummer. And I think that it's because of the way that the quality has slid. Sorry, slidden's not a word, obviously. But yeah, I think because of the way that the quality has declined over the years with their production values and just rushing and, handcuffing directors and all those things that kind of contributed to, also viewer fatigue too, just oversaturating the audience and oversaturating the market by putting way too much out all at once.
Don't mean to be sticky, but it actually got an 88% Rotten Tomatoes score and a 93% audience.
Oh, that's good. I guess it was just the critics then that were ripping it apart.
Some critics, but overall, the aggregated score is pretty high.
Nice. Okay.
I mean, Brave New World was a dumpster fire of a movie.
Right.
The Sam Wilson Captain America movie, that was awful.
Right.
But this movie, I think, is getting fairly good reviews.
That's great. Because I had read, I'd seen a couple article, headlines to the contrary. But that's good to hear.
Yeah.
Because I like it, kind of what we were talking about previously about like the more darker, gritty, more true to life, flawed characters. It's a beautiful thing. And the only thing I could think of was like, if that was true, and I guess based on that, it must just be the critics that are shitting on it. I just figured, people were going into it with that negative expectations just because of how Marvel has kind of come down over the last few years.
Did you ever see Black Widow?
I did not ever watch that. No.
The third act seems like it's a G.I. Joe movie.
Oh, yeah?
It's that bad.
That makes sense.
It's so terrible. And the visual effects are so bad.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. They're just phoned in.
I mean, you could definitely see that character being a G.I. Joe character as well. So I could see how they might have,
But, it really
messed that up a bit.
Well, I've told you before, it's really common for Marvel to give the visual effects houses a note a week or two before the release. Hey, could you change this dozen things from the last minute?
Right.
And then people wonder why the visual effects are shit.
Right.
Right. And it's because they're always changing things and getting in there. It's like too many cooks in the kitchen thing when they're messing with the broth, one too many times.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it always turns out badly.
And if you're asking people to make major changes that close to release, you have to, anybody who's cognizant of the way that the post-production works would realize that you're painting those people into a corner.
Yeah. So one of the things we wanted to do today is also review some shows and some movies. Do you have anything you'd like to review today? I think you had that show Supacell that you wanted to talk about.
Supercell, yeah. I figured if you're going to do a film, I could do a review on that series. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it was great. It's a really interesting series. It's done amazingly well for a Netflix series. Apparently, it was a bit of a hard sell to Netflix because, North American audiences can sometimes be a little resistant to things from other cultures. It's not even that it's not in English. You don't even have to read. It's just from the UK, right?
But even that, That's why they remake a lot. That's why they remade The Office and so many other great shows.
Yes.
And repackage them for the States.
Yeah.
They have accents. I don't like it.
Right. Which is troubling, to say the least.
Yeah, right.
But that's a topic for another time. It's a great series. If you're not familiar with the series Supercell, I would highly recommend it. It's set in modern-day London, and it is centered around genetic mutation in human beings. So it kind of ties into the superhero genre that we've been speaking about, which makes sense for a segue.
But also a little more grounded and gritty and those kind of characteristics that you really like in a superhero story.
Absolutely. It's way more dark because what happens is, and it's really interesting. So this series did amazingly well on its own, based on the characters and the drama that they created with those characters, because it's not one of those series like Heroes, for example, which really heavily leaned on, special effects and digital graphics and stuff. And the story wasn't necessarily as strong as maybe in other, series, right? So this one is more of like, they've done a really good job of mixing like some supernatural superhero, arguably the next evolution of the human species through this genetic mutation with actual, really compelling drama surrounding all of the main 5 characters that you're following in this story as well. And I'm sure, for UK audiences, I'm sure these actors are long since established, and I don't want to, butcher anyone's name. So I'm probably going to stay away from talking about the cast specifically, even though they all did a phenomenal job. They all kill their roles, and it's great. And for me, as a Canadian who is part of the North American, audience, those are new faces for me. And I was telling Leif earlier just how refreshing that can be, because you don't have a previous frame of reference for like how you think of that person. So essentially what happens is we're following Michael as the main character, and he starts to realize through bizarre experiences that he has these powers that he never realized before. And his powers are, all 5 of them are very interesting, but his are around time manipulation. So he can like freeze time. and the first time it happens, it's an accident. It's like a trauma response, right? Which makes sense. And he can actually gets to a point where he can jump in time, and he goes into the future and talks to a future version of himself. It's really cool. Yeah, very cool. So one thing that was really interesting about this series too, not, aside from the fact that it's really well written, the cinematography is fantastic, it's really well acted, was that it also brought a lot of attention to a condition that I didn't know previously, which is sickle cell anemia, which is a condition that affects the bloodstream and the oxygen to vital organs in your body, and can potentially seriously impact somebody's quality of life and even be fatal with those things. So I was one of those people who was ignorant about that condition before this series. So, it's gotten a lot of really good critical acclaim for raising the awareness of that conversation for people who have that condition. And then the Supacell is an offshoot of sickle cell, where these people, because it's a genetically, handed down condition from generation to generation. So these 5 characters, their parents, like sickle cell, all runs in their family, and then they had that supercell genetic, mutation that results in these powers that they never knew they had. And they're all in like their adult life. The youngest guy, Taser, he looks like he's maybe like early 20s or so, mid 20s, that kind of thing. And the only seeming link that these people have is that they're all black. They're all black people. Yeah. So there's the main characters, the 5, is Andre, Michael, Taser. There's one woman who has some amazing powers too, and then there's this guy Rodney who has very much like the Flash powers.
Okay.
And they're all really interesting characters in their own right. You kind of learn more about their story as they go along, and they're all dealing with like really serious, potential heartbreaking and like life-altering situations. But our main character is Michael, and as he travels along in his experience, the whole storyline becomes him trying to save the love of his life. And he realizes through that experience of talking to his future self that the only way he can do that is to find these other 4 people, and that the 5 of them need to unite as, for lack of a better term, a superhero team.
Yeah.
Right. Or just allies in battle to a common goal. Yeah. Because the dark side of this, and then it unfolds from there, and it's fantastic. And the darker, grittier side of it is, the real life ramifications of what these people are dealing with in their lives, and then how things start to change for them. But also that the government is portrayed in a very I don't know. It's kind of a sinister fashion. They're portrayed in a bit of a sinister fashion because they're trying to track these people, trying to capture these people so that they can control them and then can, of course, weaponize them, right? Which is like classic
government.
And I just found out, as I was just telling you, my friend, earlier today, that it's been greenlit for a 2nd season as well. So yeah, Fantastic. If you haven't seen this one, it's one of Netflix like top 10 series of the last number of years. Did really, really well. I'm super stoked that they're going to do a 2nd season, and I would highly recommend it for sure.
Well, I have to get around to finally watching it personally. I know you've been recommending it to me, and it has all the markers of something I would like. Because like I said, it reminds me a lot of especially Misfits, because that's a series where they get powers from this sort of weird electrical storm when they're all doing community service.
Yeah.
They're all kind of like petty criminals, young people. Yeah. It's a great show. You should also check that out because from the sounds of it, if you like Supacell, you'll like Misfits quite a bit.
Yeah, that makes sense. Hence the Misfits, because they're like troubled teens headed down the wrong path. Yeah.
And there's actually a character in that can control time too.
Nice. So, interesting.
Yeah.
That's a little overlap.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's only so many powers people can conceive of, right? So
sure. That's not one that, like, when you traditionally, like as a comic book kid, growing up and like reading these characters, that wasn't like a really common concept though.
No, it wasn't.
Like I can't think of any Marvel characters that have that, ability.
I think was there Hour Man in DC? I think he could control time.
Okay.
I think.
What a lame name for a superhero, eh?
I know he is. It's kind of a. I think actually no. I think I might be wrong on that. I think he could become superhuman for an hour at a time, which is also kind of lame.
Yeah.
I think in a way. Anyways, I was actually thinking while you were talking about your review for Supacell.
Yep.
It was making me think of the Mission Impossible movie Dead Reckoning that just came out, which is part 2 to the Final this one's Final Reckoning. First part was called Dead Reckoning.
Right.
And then the one that just came out, the second part, is the Final Reckoning.
Right.
And the general premise of the film is there's this AI that was developed by the Russians to outmaneuver other boats and make it invisible.
You were telling me about this the other day, yeah.
Yeah. And it becomes self-aware, and then it starts spreading everywhere.
Yeah.
And there's like 3 factions, and it's funny because you're talking about how the government wants to find those people in Supacell and weaponize them.
Yep.
Well, what does the American government want to do with this incredibly dangerous AI that's spreading everywhere, infiltrating their nuclear weapons, infiltrating government systems, could destroy the world? They want to try to capture it and control it and weaponize it. Mm-hmm. So I was thinking of that while you were talking about Supacell, because there's a definite parallel with the story.
Yeah.
Take the dangerous AI that could destroy humanity itself and try to use it as a weapon. And then there's the acolytes of they call it the entity.
Yeah.
And the acolytes of the entity, kind of worship it.
Yeah.
And kind of swear their fealty to it, so that then it protects them, and it'll do things like erase them in real time from surveillance footage.
Such a disturbing concept,
right? And like do all kinds of weird stuff to make them they seem like they don't even exist.
Yeah.
And then of course Ethan and his team, they want to do the sensible thing and just destroy it.
Yeah.
Right. So
save the world.
Exactly. So the first one was really compelling, because it did what a lot of other Mission Impossible movies do, where there is a sort of continuing story to a degree,
okay,
but usually you go into a Mission Impossible movie and you're sort of dropped into this world.
Yes.
And you got to kind of figure out what's going on as the movie goes.
Yeah, I love a good cold open in that way of like an espionage movie, when it just sucks you right into like, oh, what's happening?
Yeah, and they did that really well with the first part. Mm-hmm. It also had, I don't know, like half a dozen incredible stunt pieces that were just mind-blowingly good.
Right.
And there was like a mystery to like, well, what's going to happen? Are they going to catch the machine? Are they going to be able to stop it? Is the government going to get the machine or the entity and use it? Like, so there are all these what ifs and maybes. So there's all these open threads, and it kind of just left your mind open to imagine what could happen or where the story was going to go. And then they did the second part, the one I just watched, the Final Reckoning,
where they answer those questions that they've
that they've posited. And then it's these endless scenes of exposition, almost like a video game explaining what you have to do to win the level.
Scenes, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Just And in a video game they're necessary, but in a film, I know that we've talked about this before, where that irritates both of us. It's completely against the rule of show don't tell.
Yeah.
And it seems like, I don't know why, but in the last number of years, it seems like that's something that studio films are relying on more and more. Mm-hmm. Like when we went and saw that Valentine's one too, same thing, right?
It wasn't very good.
It could have been great. Love hurts. Love hurts.
Yeah.
Could have been great, but all of the unnecessary, like, it ruined it, where it was all like, oh, we're going to speed food you all this information.
I know.
That was completely unnecessary, instead of just showing us what's happening.
Or having it just sort of come up organically in dialogue, not feeling like it's just exposition-laden dialogue.
Exactly.
Or constant flashbacks or flashes into people's imaginations, imagining how the plan's going to go and laying it all out and saying we got to do A, B, and C to get D, and then we'll be able to defeat the machine. And then explaining it over and over again in multiple different ways.
Yes,
because
then it just it's boring. It's almost like borderline insulting, because it's like you're not giving your audience any credit. Yeah, and I actually personally think that the flashback works way better in terms of like you're still showing us instead of just telling us.
That's true.
When they're having those unnecessarily stupid conversations, it can really take you out of it as an audience member, because it's clearly solely for the benefit of the audience member. When you step back from that and look at it from a bigger perspective, if you're led to believe that this is a world where these things are happening, and I'm supposed to believe that these characters are going through this situation, nobody would ever be having that conversation.
No.
Because they're both already in it. They know what's happening.
Exactly.
It's just ridiculous.
So, yeah, I mean, this movie just was tonally so different than the last one. The other one had this forward momentum to it, this sort of what if aspect to it, this what's going to happen. Yeah. I'm on the edge of my seat. They were doing the table setting, placing everything. And then when the chess game actually happened, it was just, exposition laden. They killed off characters that I really like. Like, I don't want to ruin it for anybody, but, I was like right off the top. And then I feel like for movies that seem to get their bread and butter from doing amazing stunt set pieces, right?
Totally. That's what Mission Impossible is known for. Yeah.
There was 2 major ones. Wow. 2. There was some other bits when they were like stopping bombs from going off, which I'm almost like kind of about now, because how many times can Ethan and his team dismantle a nuclear bomb?
Yeah,
they did that in the previous movie.
Or
there was a
biological next weapon of mass destruction. Yeah,
they did that in the last movie. In Dead Reckoning, they had a small nuclear bomb that they disarmed at an airport, and then in this one, in the very beginning, in the first act, they're dismantling another atomic bomb that they have to like not let go off under the streets of London. Anyways.
Yeah, you think the writers would have been like, can we maybe get something a little less repetitious?
There's only so many threats that they can conceive of in this sort of espionage, militarized world, right? So, they're doing what they can. But, it was weird because it just was like, it wasn't as good. There was one of the cool things about it is that it interconnected every single Mission Impossible movie with the plot. Oh,
that is cool.
But it did it in such a laborious, exposition-laden way, like I said, with a lot of explanation,
So it actually wasn't cool. It was just shoehorned in.
Well, in some ways.
Because, like, initially on the surface, that seems like a great concept. Like, they've done a ton of them. It's like they're competing with Fast and Furious for, like, however many they pumped out, right? I think it's, like, Dead Reckoning is, like, the eighth one or something.
It's a lot.
So very in line with, like, Fast and Furious. So if you could do that in an organic, cool way, that'd actually be really neat.
Well, the guy who was in the computer room in the first Mission Impossible, remember when he drops the knife and the guy finds the knife and he's disappeared through the vent already? That guy is a character in this. Like
That's
after
the second one.
No, that's the first one.
The French dude?
No, not the French dude. The first one, when they go into the CIA vault.
Yeah, in the Pentagon. That's the second one.
No, that's the first one, dude.
Is it?
Yeah, it's the first
the knock list and shit. You're right. It is the first one. My bad.
It's okay.
I thought that was the second one for sure. But no, it's all about the knock list of the undercover agents. Yes. You're right. That is the first one.
And so, no, it's all good. And so that guy who was in the room who barely missed Ethan.
Yeah, I guess I should have just said my mistake. Yeah.
No, that's all good.
That guy's a very famous actor. He's very well established.
Yeah.
Or are you talking about the analyst?
No, there's an analyst dude.
But the guy who drops the knife is what you're talking about.
Not the guy who drops the knife. That's the French guy.
Okay. Yes.
That's John, whatever his name is. Jean Reno?
Jean Reno? Super successful actor,
guy.
Yeah.
Anyways, but the guy the analyst who goes in the room and goes, what the hell is this? And then looks up and then he can't see what happened. The vent's all closed up and the laser sensors are on and he's like, what?
Yeah.
Well, that guy is a character in the movie. He got sent to somewhere in the middle of nowhere up north.
I want him guarding a post up in Alaska by the end of the day or whatever when they figured out
where he is in the movie. Like there's
did bring that back around.
Yeah, well, Ethan and his team end up there and they find him.
Cool.
And he's supposed to try to help them get some information to stop the entity, blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
But one of the cool things, too, is one of my favorite Mission Impossible movies, the one with Philip Seymour Hoffman as the villain.
That was good.
He
crushed that role.
He was terrifying as a villain.
He was, yeah.
Like, genuinely scary, which is hard to do because these movies are kind of mustache twirly, kind of goofy, cartoony kind of villains a lot of the time.
Yes.
But he was genuinely frightening.
He was.
And
he really did a great job in that role. Yeah, it was like this quiet sinisterness of like, I don't value human life. I will kill anybody if they wrong me. And he came across
cold motherfucker
in a very scary, very convincing and compelling way. He absolutely did.
So the rabbit's foot, that kind of thing in the canister that they're all chasing.
Yeah.
They tie this, and this is spoiler alert, so if you don't want to hear this and you're going to go see the movie.
Dude, that movie came out years ago.
No, but
you're
it's
talking about the new one.
Because
they bring the rabbit's foot thing back around.
So plug your ears, because I'm going to ruin some of the movie for you right now. Is apparently that was the prototype, the what do you call it? Primordial ooze version of the entity.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
It wasn't biological warfare. That was just a cover. It was the virus.
Okay.
And so it's technically Ethan's fault. Right? They tie that in, right?
Nice, yeah.
Which I thought was kind of cool. But it's
cool that it's such a deep cut to bring that storyline full circle.
I respect it, but I didn't like how they did it. I didn't like the way that they screenwrote it and portrayed it in the film. I didn't really dig that.
Okay.
But it was kind of cool. The idea was cool.
What did you think that Fail did?
I think
about the way they, portrayed it.
It was just a lot of over-explaining. It felt like cutscenes in a video game.
Right.
Over and over again through the film.
So the same thing that we were talking about with Love Hurts, and that's kind of where this whole conversation began. Right. I got you.
So, I mean, unfortunately, it was a cool idea. I don't know if they executed it very well, but the set pieces are awesome. There's this bit where he has to go to the submarine to find the source code of the entity, where it first started in the submarine, this stealth submarine.
Okay.
And he has to go like really deep in the ocean, and then the submarine's like about to roll off a shelf in the middle of the ocean.
Oh wow!
And he's got to get out in time, and it's pretty cool.
Damn!
And that was awesome. Like the set pieces are great. There just wasn't enough of them. And then there was the one everyone's seen in the commercial and the adverts when
with the biplane,
which is a pretty big deal because he was on that plane. That wasn't a stunt double. They wired the hell out of him so he couldn't fall off.
Yeah,
but that's him. With the G-force of the wind, like stretching his face.
Is still pretty crazy.
It's a bit crazy. The guy's he is crazy. We know this. That's a whole separate other topic. We could do a whole show about that.
And I personally, I don't know if we've ever had this conversation, but I'm one of those people that kind of have Tom Cruise fatigue.
I do.
Like I would be totally okay if I never saw his face again for the rest of my life.
Ellie, my wife, was just literally saying that the other day.
Yeah.
She's just tired of it. I'm like, you want to go see the new Mission Impossible movie? You want to see Tom Cruise run again? Oh, and boy,
run. Yeah.
And guess what?
That is definitely the calling card of Ethan Hunt as a role for sure.
Within 10, 15 minutes of the movie starting, he's doing the Ethan Hunt run across London.
Yeah.
He always does.
At least they always set it to like really cool backdrops.
Sure.
But what I was going to say was like in his defense, even though we all feel that way and it has, the tropes and like it's become such a predictable formula. That submarine shit, that does sound like some Fast and Furious shit right there.
It was
That's
cool.
Like, I was like, that sounds like like what you're telling me about it, right?
Yeah.
But what I was, recently watching an interview with one of his co-stars, and in his defense, even though I fully agree with all of that, this person was saying that, if you like him or you don't, you can't deny that he works incredibly hard to try and give the audience of his films the experience that you get when you're at that film.
And I feel like he genuinely...
I think that's admirable, right? You can appreciate that level of like commitment.
I think he genuinely has a love for cinema.
Yeah, it seems like it. Yeah.
And I think he genuinely wants to deliver movies
since like the
to
80s,
people.
Man. Like I think his first one was like Cocktail or something.
Oh yeah, well no,
that came out when like we were like little kids.
No, dude, it was even earlier. It was that movie. No, he was in.
Cocktail was not his first, no?
No, he was very young, teenager. Bunch of famous heartthrobs.
Outsiders.
The Outsiders.
That's right.
Yes.
The Outsiders. Still one of the best Rumble scenes ever.
So good. And like heavyweights, Patrick Swayze.
Dude, so many big guys.
Tom Cruise.
Got Charlie Sheen.
Ralph Macchio. Who's having a bit of a resurrection,
resurgence
because of the Karate Kid movies, which that new Karate Kid movie is actually coming out shortly.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I know. Like Mission Impossible, I'm really glad they're ending the series supposedly because it definitely needs to be put to sleep for a while.
Right.
But yeah, it was a disappointing sequel. I would recommend seeing Dead Reckoning. It grabs you by the balls and just drags you through it. It's amazing and it has all these set pieces and just all kinds of intriguing plot lines. I wouldn't highly recommend The Final Reckoning.
Which almost makes the fact that the second one, the continuation of that storyline, the second film, so disappointing, it almost makes it even more so then. You know? Like if they keyed it up in such a good way and then the delivery was like so wah-wah.
It was.
That's a bummer.
It was a bummer. But, Tom Cruise is getting old. And you can really see it. You can really, he's definitely aging finally. And he can't be running around doing these action movies forever. But one of the things
stuff's hard on your body, yeah.
But I was thinking The original Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to look this up because I want to know that stuff off the top of my head.
Yeah, I was in junior high when the original Mission Impossible movie came out because I remember sitting in the theater, the only theater in Portage la Prairie, Manitoba, watching it with my friend Kurt Brownridge and a couple other friends of ours. And I think it was like, I'm going to say 1992 or 94 maybe. I don't know. When did that first one come out?
I think it was 94, 90 or 96.
Oh, I thought you were looking it up.
Well, actually, I was looking up the Mission Impossible television show.
Oh, the original. Yeah.
And
which was also a British series, was it not?
No, it was American.
Was it?
It was American.
Okay.
But the lead guy, the guy who was the lead of the team, he wasn't called Ethan Hunt, and I think he had some other name. I can't find it right now. But he was elderly. Like, he was gray-haired, craggy-faced guy.
That's right.
So why couldn't Tom Cruise come back one day and reprise his role as old Ethan Hunt? I have a feeling they're going to do that.
Being like the team dispatch or whatever. Yeah, I can see that.
First Mission Impossible came out in 1996.
1996.
That was a big year for me.
Yeah.
That was like the first year I moved out and was a young drunk punk.
Nice. That was 2 years before I graduated for me. So I guess I was actually in high school, not junior high, when we were sitting there watching that movie. Yeah, because I remember, like, the first time the theme song hit in the theater, and you're watching, like, the wick of the dynamite burn. It was dope. We were all like, really "This is fantastic!"
And the explosive gum that just blew me away. I loved it.
Oh yeah, that was such a cool little ad. Really totally, good. Yeah, really good. Yeah.
There was a funny scene.
I'm thinking of the Avengers. That was the original British series with like the secret agents.
Yes, that
the
one.
Avengers.
There was a funny scene too. So speaking of Tom Cruise getting old, there was a scene where him and Haley Atwell's character, because Haley Atwell's in these movies now, she's a newer character that she's been recruited by the IMF. They get captured by Gabriel, the acolyte of the machine, like the guy who worships the machine. And you're going to torture them and all this stuff, right? And then there's this sort of big...
As you do, yeah.
There's this big fight. I know Americans have this weird fetish with tying people up in chairs, and then some guy comes in a room and unfurls the torture tools. What is wrong with Americans, dude? What the fuck? I'll see shows sometimes that have nothing to do with stuff like that, but they somehow find a way to shoehorn a scene in where someone's tied to a chair, getting pistol whipped, or having a gun waved in their face. Like, Americans have a fetish for this shit, dude.
Yes, and we kind of have to tread lightly in terms of like not alienating a bunch of people.
Hey, I'm not saying I love my American brothers and sisters. I'm just saying that culturally they seem to like that in TVs and movies.
Well, yeah, you can really see it in any of the military movies where, it's almost like the ones that are glaringly obvious. You almost feel like you're watching like a recruitment film.
Yeah.
Like it is definitely a very real thing for sure.
But speaking of him getting old and not being able to do this stuff anymore, there was a scene that seemed really telling of that because Tom Cruise gets loose and off camera he starts beating up the guys in the room and you just see Haley Atwell reacting to it all. And I'm like, they did that because Tom was probably not up to doing a really complicated stunt sequence with having this fight. And then they just cut back to him and there's a pile of guys and a guy has a knife in his back.
And he's like breathing heavy.
He's breathing heavy. But I'm like, they did that because Tom's probably not up for that.
That makes a lot of sense.
Do you know what I mean, right?
Did you see any of like with the shadows across like behind her or like on her face or anything?
Just her reacting to him off camera.
Wow, so they really cheated it.
They super cheated it.
Yeah, I think you're right. That seems like the most... Or maybe he injured himself somewhere along the filming process and they had to pivot. Who knows?
He did. The one they did during COVID, which was the one before the last one, so it was like 3 movies ago. He jumps off of a building.
So not applicable to this particular situation.
No, but speaking of him injuring himself, he jumps off this building and he's supposed to jump from one building to another, but he didn't reach it and he just grabbed the ledge.
I remember you telling
me
about
this. And he broke
his
foot. And then he's hobbling away on his broken foot. And then the next shot is 3 months later.
Right.
Where he's been off and they had to delay the movie so his foot could heal. This is the problem with putting your star...
Which is some very Jackie Chan style situation right there. Which, who doesn't like... We all love Jackie Chan.
And dude, we have to do... I want to do an entire episode about Jackie Chan.
Yeah.
I could talk about Jackie Chan for hours.
His life has been pretty legend. Fascinating. Yeah.
Dude, I read his biography and it's heart-wrenchingly good.
Wow.
He was brought up in one of these.
Borrow that biography?
I could actually. I'll have to find it.
That'd be great.
But
I would be very interested to watch.
It's called I Am Jackie Chan.
Yep.
And it talks about how his parents put him in one of these traditional Chinese schools
when he was just a little kid.
He was very young.
Yep.
It's almost like going to military school, but it's like a theater, arts, dance, acting, martial arts school.
Yeah, and you can go home and see your family twice a year for holidays.
And that's it. And you live there with Master. Yeah. Who was kind of almost abusive to these guys, but they had this begrudging love for him still because he taught them so much. Like everything that Jackie...
Which is like the same teacher-student dynamic we've seen in every single kung fu movie ever. Right? Like, that's a little on the nose, right?
I know, but it's the true story. It's actually how he lived. And it was a little like Lord of the Flies because Master was old and he'd go to bed and then all the kids were just off on their own and things got kind of crazy sometimes.
You know, kids are cruel to each other. Yeah,
they don't have any boundaries.
Yeah.
So, fascinating story, heart-wrenching, how he was separated from his parents, but everything he can do so well, all the acrobatics and the flawless movement, the almost dance-like performance that he can do with martial arts, that all goes back to his 14 years of training at that school.
Yeah, Jackie Chan is one of the greatest of all time. Yeah. It's undeniable, the athleticism. And
that comes from traditional Chinese theater, by the way. Because they would do...
As well as all that martial arts training.
Well, that's the thing, is that the shows they would perform were the more traditional shows, like they put on here sometimes with the silk costumes and the dancing and the backgrounds and the massive, it was that kind of thing, kind of traditional Chinese theater.
Definitely.
Where you had that amalgamation of like dance and singing and martial arts and movement and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
But then what happened was when Jackie ended up leaving the school, he left to go start working in Hong Kong action movies.
Nice.
And that's
perfect sense.
And that's how he sort of transitioned into that world. So anyways, we could do a whole episode about this because I love Jackie Chan. So.
Totally. I know we that was a bit of a digression, for sure. But I do as well. So let's definitely pencil that in for an episode in the future. 100%.
Anyways, this is great. I love talking movies with you, Dark.
Yeah, buddy. No, me too, for sure. And when we come back to that Jackie Chan episode, we'll have to talk about like what was the first Jackie Chan film you ever saw, because I will never forget the first one I ever saw, because it was just like, you were just like, what is actually happening right now? This is unreal. It was so cool.
My first one was Drunken Master.
Oh, that's a gooder. Mine was previous to that, Rumble in the Bronx. Still one of his best films that he's ever made. Obviously his not speaking English as a first language, his English has come a long way since then.
Yeah.
But the action sequences in that movie and the stunts that he pulled are just unreal.
He broke his foot and had a cast on, and he
Numerous
wore
times.
a sock over the cast that was painted to look like a shoe.
we're already doing the Jackie Chan episode.
I know.
We're already doing it here. I know it's crazy because if you do freeze frame on some of those scenes, you can see it, right?
Yeah. And
it's insane that somebody would be able to go back to work with a broken foot, doing things that are so physically demanding. There's a number. That's just one of the things that makes him one of the such a legend, right?
Now we can actually tie this back because we were talking about the new Karate Kid movie earlier, and he's actually in it. So Ralph Macchio and Jackie Chan are both of it's like a dual sensei situation where they mentor this kid and teach him. And and one of them's teaching him more kung fu and one of them's teaching him more karate. It's like they're using both disciplines.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah, totally.
I'd like to actually maybe review that when it comes out. I'm kind of curious to see it.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because Jackie Chan has done one previously where he was the sensei to Jaden Smith as the Karate Kid when they, you know what, as much of not a fan of Will Smith's son I am, I also really enjoyed that movie. It was really well done.
Take the jacket off, put it on the hook.
Yeah.
Take it off the hook, put the jacket on. Remember that? That was good.
Totally. Yeah.
He's learning the block moves that way, right?
Yeah. And I thought that they did a good job of setting up the story with the whole like fish out of water, like, you know, having to move to a different part of the world, a different culture, trying to assimilate, dealing with being bullied. Because again, kids are awful. If you don't have any kids, don't, please. You know, there's enough of them in the world. I'm just kidding.
I take offense to that. I have children.
I know. That's a horrible thing to say.
I have occasionally wanted to maybe, drown them, but, most of the time I love them.
We're going to cut all this out, obviously, but it was it was a strong film. It was really cool for sure. I thought it was a good one too.
Well, I think that was a fantastic first episode. I feel like we actually started warming up. near the end.
Yeah,
we started getting a groove near the end here. So
totally, a little bit more of a back and forth and stuff. And there's even other things that we could have talked about too, like with the Mission Impossible movies, or the other one I was talking about, like a Supacell as well. It's interesting how that has kind of become a trope of like, oh, the evil government, and they're out to like control everybody.
No one trusts the government. How could they, right?
Totally, yeah. And I mean, it's also like there has to be a villain, right?
Yeah.
So there's that balance of good versus dark, good versus evil, light versus dark. Like you need the villain. They're the Empire, for lack of a better term, right? Versus the Rebel Alliance. But it does beg an interesting question though about human psychology, right? Is that more true to life than we would like to think it is? Because people as individuals, I believe, there's like, it's an unfortunate truth of the world that we live in that there are some horrible people out there.
Yeah.
But I believe that there are more good people in the world than there are shitty people. And I think that like an individual does have that respect for nature and wildlife and does have a value of other human life. But then you put them in this situation of they're in an administrative role of like a controlling entity of a governing body. And then you layer that on top of like, oh, well, we have to protect the interests of our country versus the rest of the world because we don't want to be the ones that are victimized, or you got to do it for the greater good. Or there's all of these justifications for people to compromise their
like
morality.
The world of espionage, basically.
Totally.
And every country does conduct a lot of really questionable shit in the shadows.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they
100%.
do it for the greater good, but...
Right. And then there's people who are doing that stuff that need to live with that for the rest of their lives. And, as an everyday person, I would like to think that that is exaggerated and it's hyperbolic, but who knows, right? Who knows? Because if people are put in certain situations where they have to make questionable calls that are, maybe ethically questionable, but they're given a justification of da-da-da-da, I mean, as human beings, we're pretty intelligent species, but we are also very easily manipulated.
Who would want to have that job? Do you know what I mean? Like to have to make those hard decisions.
That's a good question.
I have absolute respect for that. Like I don't judge that.
Yeah.
Because I mean, a lot of that stuff needs to happen, and someone needs to do it. And there's
See, this is a conversation that I'd like to continue throughout episodes, though, is the human psychology behind the storyline, right? Like, like Lord of the Flies, like with kids, if they're left to their own devices, will they torture each other because that's the dark side of humanity? I don't know. It's, it's an interesting question because the government entities in those espionage films always kind of plays that same villainous role, right?
A little bit.
It's interesting.
In the Mission Impossible movie, just to wrap it up completely, the government they're suspicious. They don't trust the American government to give them the entity, but there's a begrudging trust between Ethan and the president for some reason. Like he doesn't trust anyone else, but he trusts her.
Interesting.
So I thought that was interesting that not everyone in the government was this nebulous evil. There was, there were some people that he felt like he could actually trust. I mean, that Phelps guy or whatever his name is, the main guy from the first movie, the older guy who recruited him. I can't remember his name. Anyways, he's just evil and duplicitous. We know that you can't trust that guy.
He's a super famous actor though. It's not like, it's not like Martin Sheen, but it's somebody like that, right? Like we've seen that guy a million times and stuff. And we're both going to be like, oh, of course.
Yeah, he's in the first Mission Impossible, and they didn't bring him back until a few movies ago.
Well, he's the one who screws them all over and murders his entire team, right?
No, that's the other guy. I know who you're talking about.
Oh, I'm thinking of a different character.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the guy that you remember when he's in the restaurant.
Hunting him down.
That's hunting him down, and then he blows up the aquarium.
Yeah,
that guy.
Yeah. He is a total. I mean, I'm sure as a human being, he's a good dude and obviously a great actor, but as that character, completely despicable.
Kittredge.
Yes,
that's his name.
That's right.
Anyways, thank you for joining us on Popcorn and Protagonists. This was awesome. I really enjoyed this. It was a little shaky at first, but I think we're getting into our groove. And we'll see you on the next episode.
Yeah, it's always fun talking movies and stuff with you, buddy. Absolutely. See you guys.
Right, bye. Awesome.